So our world feels disconnected now more than ever, right? I like to say that we live in the most connected but yet disconnected period of civilization, right? Our era of civilization. In no other period of civilization could you pick up your phone and quite literally see the face of someone that is 1,000 miles away, right? Or no era in civilization could you go on social media on your phone and see what someone else is doing in real time that is thousands of miles away, right? So we live in a connected society in the sense that our access to things and our access to people, are much more advanced. But despite all the connections that we have technologically, we still feel disconnected from each other. And we still feel disconnected as a society, right? And obviously I could come on this video and I could do the surface level stuff that I see a lot of people doing, right? A lot of people, I see posting, blaming social media, blaming our advancements in technology, blaming the phone, so on and so forth. And I think that is a lazy excuse. I think that is a lazy excuse. And I don't think that is the core of the problem that we have. I don't think that's the real cause. I think that's surface level. That's like taking the easy way out, right? And see, I was thinking about it the other day, right? And I realized that the reason why our civilization is so disconnected isn't primarily because of our phones. It isn't because of social media. It isn't because of our society being more modernized, right? Sure, it might play a part, but that is not the real cause. The biggest reason why our world feels so disconnected is because individually we are disconnected from ourselves. And see, when you are disconnected from self, you are going to value validation over authentic connection. When you are disconnected from yourself, you are going to trade in authenticity for being liked. When you are disconnected from yourself, you are not going to know who you are to put yourself in the right places to meet the right people, to meet like minded people like yourself, right? And when you are disconnected from yourself, you are not going to love yourself. You are going to be ashamed of who you are, ashamed of putting yourself out there, ashamed of showing up as your authentic self to people so that you can meet the right people, right? So, our dilemma, our problem of being disconnected as a society comes from us being disconnected from ourselves. That is the main cause. It isn't social media, it isn't technology, it isn't the phone, it's none of that. It's coming from an internal disconnection from self. That is the main issue, right? That is the main issue. See, a lot of you guys, or a lot of us, I'm gonna include myself, right? A lot of us say that we want authentic connection. We want people who we align with, right? We say all of that. But at our deepest level, What we truly want is validation. That is what we want. This is why you pick up your phone and you go on Instagram and you see a woman portraying this baddie image, right? This image of being a baddie or living the baddie lifestyle. And deep down, that's not who they truly are. This is why you go on social media and you see guys portraying this baller lifestyle, right? And they flex their money, they flex their cars, they flex their jewelry, but yet deep down, that's not who they truly are. It's just the image they're putting out there to be validated or to be seen in a certain perspective or certain light. And that's not who they truly are. All of us, or most of us, are still performing. Most of us are trying to put out an image that isn't even us. We're trying to be seen. We're trying to be liked. We're trying to be validated. And how can you find authentic connections if most people are not being themselves? How can you put yourself in the right environments if you're pretending to be someone else or if your main focus is to be validated, right? How can you? Truthfully, how can you? You have to show up as yourself. You have to be yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to actually like yourself so that you can find authentic connections, right? I think in order for you to find authentic connections in this world, you first have to be connected with yourself, right? You have to be connected with self first, right? And you have to know who you are so that you can put yourself in the right places to meet the right people. A lot of you guys watching this, you're in relationships, romantic relationships, you're in friendships, or you're around people who simply are not in alignment with the true you, right? They're not. A lot of your friends are not aligned with you. A lot of your relationships are not aligned with you. But because you have a need to be liked, a need to be seen, a need to be validated, and you don't think the authentic you is good enough to find the right connections, that is why you still feel disconnected. And it's all coming from you not being connected with yourself. Because everything comes from self, right? It was Ram Wills that I first heard this from when he said, your main relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself, right? And at the time, hearing that opened up, you know, this deeper part in my mind, right? When I first heard that statement. And ever since I've heard that quote, I've begun to realize that everything in my life is constantly a reflection of me, right? If I feel disconnected from the world, it is because I'm disconnected from myself. If I'm around the wrong people or I find myself in relationships that are unhealthy, in friendships that are not aligned, it is because I'm not connected with myself and I don't value or know myself enough to find what is right for me, right? So everything in our life is constantly a reflection of our relationship and our connection to self, right? And so blaming social media is a lazy ass excuse. Blaming our phones is a lazy ass excuse, right? If we were operating from the right place, if we were all in the right state of being, then our phones would be a beautiful thing, right? There's this quote that says, the right tool in the wrong hands becomes the wrong tool. And so if our phones, if our technology, if our AI is in the wrong hands, meaning we're operating from the wrong state of being, then obviously it's not going to produce the right results. But if all of us were operating from a place of authenticity, a place of self-love, a place of connection with self, then our phones would be a beautiful thing. They would keep us so connected, right? They would keep this world so connected. All of us who are experiencing loneliness, all of us who feel alone, our phones, our technology, all of it would bring us together if we were operating from the right mind state and heart space, right? It would bring us together. But the fact that most of us want to be liked, the fact that most of us want to be validated, the fact that most of us are afraid and ashamed of who we are is the thing that is creating this problem of disconnection in the world. And then we blame social media, we blame our phones, we blame technology, right? It is not the technology, it is us. It's coming from a lack of connection with self, because everything starts here, because your most important relationship is the one that you have with self. And if self isn't right, if the connection with self isn't right, then no connection in your life will ever be right, right? And so we need to start looking at ourselves. We need to start looking ourselves in the mirror, sit with ourselves, and recognize that our world being disconnected is because of a lack of connection with ourselves. That's truthfully it, right? That is truthfully it. And I'm sort of recognizing that, more and more every day, right? I'm recognizing that more and more every day. I think a lot of us are so ashamed of who we are, right? We're so ashamed of who we are, right? We wake up every day and we say that we want to find genuine connections in the world, but yet we're so ashamed to even put ourselves out there in an authentic way so that people can see the real us, right? We're so ashamed of who we are. We're afraid of putting ourselves out there. Most of y'all watching this, you probably don't even leave your house that much. You sit inside your house every day and complain about you not having friends. You complain about you not having genuine connections. But yet you're so ashamed of who you are to actually put yourself out there to meet the right people, right? Or you will live in so much fear. You will live in your comfort zone, so much so that you don't put yourself out there enough to find the right people. But yet you complain about feeling disconnected or not having genuine relationships in your life, right? How are you going to find the right people if you don't put yourself out there, right? You really can't. Now, if you were connected with yourself, you would have no problem putting yourself out there. You would have no problem going to places alone, right? Researching hobbies, things that you like, and actually taking yourself out to do those things, right? When was the last time you even took yourself on a solo date? When was the last time you did something nice for yourself? When was the last time you dropped the mask and allowed people to see the real you, right? When was the last time you even went outside your house, put on some nice clothes and did something you liked, right? You can't complain about feeling disconnected from the world and not having genuine connections in your life if you don't put yourself out there enough so that people can experience you and you can meet the right people, right? For me, I was like this for most of my life, right? And it wasn't until last year I really started to do things solo, right? Sometimes I go to the movies solo, right? Saturday, I went out to this spot where there are bars and stuff like that. And I'm not a big bar person, right? Every now and then I'll go out, but I challenge myself to do things which are not comfortable, right? Put on some nice clothes and I went out. Um, I struck up conversations with people. I approach people. Um, if I see some girls that I'm attracted to, I pull up and I say, "What's up?" Um, and it got to the point in which a group of guys saw me just chilling by myself, and they asked me if I was alone, and I said, "Yeah, I'm out here chilling." And they kind of looked at me funny at first, like, like, like this nigga really out here by himself. Like, what? That's how they looked at me, right? But we just started talking, and then they asked me to come hang out with them, right? They asked me to if I wanted to roll with them for the rest of the night, and you know, I rolled with them. To the point in which they started buying drinks for all of us and stuff like that, and it was a chill night. Um, Even before that, a group of girls saw me by myself, and they just came up to me and started speaking to me, having conversation with me or whatever. And so, you know, I put myself out there in an environment which most people would actually shit themselves being by themselves, right? Imagine being at a bar area, you know, not even one bar, there's a bunch of bars, so it's a lot of people by yourself, right? That's not something that most people do. And I did it, and it wasn't the first time I did it, right? But last night, for the first time, I met quite a few people. Quite a few people even struck up conversations with me out of random. A guy stopped me and asked me how to get in shape, and I, gave him some tips and stuff like that, right? But I wasn't ashamed of who I was, and I wasn't holding on to comfort and keeping myself in a cage. I put myself out there. I did the uncomfortable, and it just so happened that doing the uncomfortable allowed me to meet the right people and allowed me to have a good night, even though I'm not much of a bar person, right? But I still enjoyed myself. It was a fun night. And I'm not saying you have to put yourself in those environments, right? That is just something that I do because I know the benefits of it, and I have an image in my mind of the type of man that I want to be, right? So I do those things, but you don't have to do those things, right? There are philosophy clubs, or there's this philosophy club called the Stoics, you know, that I go to whenever I'm free, usually on Fridays, right, by myself. And it's good energy. We have good discussions. We have fun conversating about, philosophy and life and stoicism, so on and so forth. And overall, I just enjoy it. It just so happened that I can't really go that much because I work quite a bit. But nevertheless, I find things that I enjoy doing, and if I have to do them alone, I do them alone. And I have friends, I have people that I truly have a connection with, but I know within myself that the type of man or type of person that I want to be is a person who is comfortable with himself anywhere. I can be anywhere, or I desire to be the type of person who is anywhere and still comfortable in my own skin. And so I put myself in uncomfortable positions, in uncomfortable situations, so that I can become the man who's comfortable anywhere. I want to make this entire world my home in the sense that I'm comfortable with me anywhere. It doesn't matter where I'm at. That's the vision that I have for myself, right? I want to be so deeply connected with myself that I can be anywhere, right? I can be anywhere, but I will never feel distant from myself. And because I will never feel distant from myself, I will always be connected with this whole entire world. Because I have the strongest and the most important connection that you can have. And that is connection with self. The strongest and the most important, right? It's all coming from that. It's all coming from that. And even the other day, I was saying that the reason why a lot of us, or a lot of people, I should say, do harm, the reason why we treat people a certain way, or mean to people, we do a lot of bad things to people, is because deep down we're not connected with ourselves, right? Because once you're connected with yourself, you feel a deep connection to everything, right? And so it is hard for you to even do bad to people. It is even hard for you to do wrong to people, right? When you're connected with yourself, because you feel that genuine connection to all things. And being connected with self connects you to all things, or you feel that connection, right? And so, even on a macro level, even in terms of healing our world, reducing crime, reducing all the bullshit going on in the world, if we were all to get to a place in which we became deeply connected with ourselves, then we would heal all of that. All of the crime, all of the violence, all of the political upheavals, you know, all of that would go away, right? And this world would become sort of a paradise. This world would become like the Garden of Eden. That is how powerful being connected with self is that being connected with self connects you to all things. And when you feel that connection to all things, then hurting someone else, doing wrong to someone else is going to pain you, right? It's going to hurt you deeply. It's going to feel like you are actually harming yourself. And actuality, you are, right? Actually, you are, because if we're all connected, then harming someone else is still harming self. Even the emotions and the things that you you know, feel like they're self-inflicted, you know. So yeah, being disconnected from self is the reason why this world feels so disconnected. It's the reason why we feel so distant. That is the main cause. It's not social media, it's not the phone, it's not all this technology. It is because we're disconnected from self, right? So if we want to bridge the gap, and if we want a world that is connected, deeply connected, we first have to establish that deep connection with ourselves. And once you establish that deep connection, you're going to love yourself, you're going to appreciate who you are, you're not going to be ashamed of who you are, You are going to know who you are. You are going to live with courage, right? And overall, once you have those things started internally, it is only a matter of time before you find genuine connections. Because life, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, and even if you don't believe in that, think of it from a logical perspective. Once you love yourself, you value yourself, you know who you are, automatically you are going to take the steps to find the right connections and to be connected and with the right people. And all your friendships, all your relationships, every single thing in your life will become a reflection of that internal connection, right? So it all starts within, right? As the quote says, as within, so without. And if it ain't within, you go without. I just threw that shit in there, but that's not what the quote says. That's not what the quote said, but I don't know. I just rhyme like I was a damn pimp or some shit. Well, yeah, my good people, work on that self connection. Work on being connected with yourself. And the more we do that, the more we will build a world that is deeply connected, right? So yeah, the rain is about to come down. Yeah, yeah, the rain is about to fall in any minute now. So thank you guys for being here with me. Take care of yourselves, love on yourselves, appreciate yourselves. Get your damn self out the house and go meet people. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And yeah, I will see y'all in the next one. Peace and blessings.